Hi everybody, so this is day 2 of trig. So we're going to be finding the angle now using our trig functions. So it's a lot of review in one small extra piece that we're going to add in today. All right, so based on this picture, write down what is the hypotenuse, which letter, J, L, or K, which is the opposite of angle Y, and what is the adjacent of angle Y. Labeling our triangles is super important. So remember, hypotenuse is always across from your right angle. So this is your hypotenuse. Okay. Angle Y, opposite angle Y, that's across from. This is our opposite, so J. And adjacent means next to, right? Adjacent means next to. Right now, my dog is adjacent to me. She's laying right next to me. Okay? All right, so find the following ratios. So notice in all of these, again, you should always pause the video and look at the problem. We are doing angle N, right? So that's the angle that we're focused on for labeling our triangle. And that's important. You need to know which angle you're talking about. All right, so my hypotenuse is across from my right angle, so that's my H. My hypotenuse is H. Across from N, that's your opposite, so that's the 8. And notice how I'm drawing to the actual side. Some kids will try to draw the N to the L. No, we're talking about the sides of the triangle, and then adjacent. So now we do have an acronym to help us remember this, which is which, and that's SOHCAHTOA. A lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, we're learning SOHCAHTOA. So SOHCAHTOA means sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. So that's a little acronym to help you remember. So sine is O over H. So O over H is 8 over 10. And then we can simplify that and divide by 2, so we get 4/5. Cosine of N, so cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, 6 over 10, which simplifies down, divide by 2, 3 over 5. And tan is opposite over adjacent, so that's 8 over 6, which is 4 over 3, simplified. And that's it. All right, so now I'm not giving you a triangle. You have to draw your triangle yourself. So in triangle XYZ, angle Y is 90. So I'm going to draw a right triangle. Angle Y is my 90. And it really doesn't matter which one is X and Y. You can really do whatever you want. So I'm going to make that top one X and then this one. Oh my goodness, I'm on highlighter all of a sudden. Okay, Y and Z. All right, so we have XY is 7, so it's 7. YZ is 24. And XZ is 25. All right, so now it's asking us for cosine of X. So now instead of asking for all of them, in most of this unit, we're only going to be focused on one. So we're talking about cosine of X. So X is the angle I care about. So now let's go through and label. My hypotenuse across from the right angle. My opposite is across from X, because that's my angle. The leftover is your adjacent. So SOHCAHTOA. So they're asking me about cosine. Cosine is the caw. I always think of like a bird. Caw, caw. So cosine of X is A over H. Right? A over H. So the A is 7. And the H is 25. And we're done. So this isn't any more difficult. It just involves us drawing. All right, so this is kind of to get our minds thinking about solving, because we're going to start solving stuff. So solve the equations for x. So how do I solve 8x equals negative 48? We just divide by 8. Now think about, why do you divide? We divide because these are multiplying, right? 8x means 8 times x. The opposite or inverse of multiplication is division. If we have x squared equals 25, right, we take the square root. X equals 5. The inverse or opposite of a square is a square root. We add 9. The inverse or the opposite of subtraction is addition. When we solve an equation, we use the inverse operation, right? So we're always doing the opposite operation. What will undo multiplying? Dividing. What will undo squaring? Square rooting. We will undo minus by plus. Okay, so we are going to find the measure of angle A to the nearest tenth. So we have angle A. Now, it's not telling us which ratio we use, so we can pick any one we want. Sometimes we can write them out all three. Let's do all three just for practice. So sine of A, wow, that was really pretty. Cosine of A, and tan of A. All right, so let's label our triangle. Across from my right angle is my H. Across from the angle is our opposite, and the leftover is our adjacent. So, toa. So the sine is O over H, right? O over H, so that's 8 over 17. Cosine is adjacent, 15 over 17. And tan is O over H. O over A, sorry, 8 over 15. Okay, so now to find A, so we're just going to pick one. I'm going to use sine, right? So sine of A equals 8 over 17. So focus on this right now. We want to solve for A, right? We want to get at that A. But see how it's stuck inside a sine? So we have to do the inverse of sine. Now here's the weird thing. The inverse of sine is just inverse sine. So if you look on your calculator, we're going to look for sine minus 1. Sine minus 1 is inverse sine. So we're going to do sine minus 1 of 8 over 17. So what we're technically doing is sine minus 1 on both sides. Because the sine and the inverse sine, they undo each other, right? They're inverses. That's my highlighter. So this and this, the sines end up undoing each other, and we just get left with angle A. So angle A equals, now we have to use a calculator for this. We have no other way to do it. So on the calculator, there's actually a button for inverse sine. And we end up getting, am I in the right mode? Yep. We end up getting 28.1. So A equals 28.1 degrees. So I'm actually going to have another lesson specifically on how to do this in the calculator because I can't do it on my iPad. So if you have one of the little the little TI 30 calculators, if you look really closely, you have your sine button, your cosine button, and your tan button. And right above them, you'll see it in blue, sine minus 1, cosine minus 1, tan minus 1. So because they're in blue, what you're going to do is you're going to hit the second button. So you're going to hit that second button. And then you're going to hit sine. And then when you do that, the sine minus 1 button will come up. And then you can put in your fraction. So in that last one, it was 8 over 17. And then hit enter. And it'll give you that decimal. The decimal ended up being 28.0724. And we could have done this with the other ones also. We could have done inverse cosine, inverse tangent. All right. So pause the video. Notice we are missing a side. So start by finding the missing side. So when we have a missing side, we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem. Which one are we missing? We are missing our hypotenuse, our c. So 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 36 plus 64. 100 equals c squared. To solve, we take the square root. C is 10. So our hypotenuse is 10. Which angle do My phone keeps on ringing and it's really irritating. All right, so we're looking at angle P this time. So angle P is right there. So across from P is 6, that's our O, and so 8 is our adjacent. So again, we have so, ka, toa. So the so sign is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's 6 over 10, which is 3 over 5. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, 8 over 10, which is 4 over 5. And tangent is opposite over adjacent, 6 over 8, which is 3 over 4. So now again, we're going to pick any of the three. So last time I did sine, I'm going to do tangent this time. So I'm going to pick tan. So if tan of P is 3 over 4, to solve for P, we're going to do the inverse. The inverse of tan is tan minus 1. Tan minus 1. So the tan and the tan minus 1 end up canceling each other out. So we get P equals tan minus 1 of 3 over 4. And again, we're going to use the calculator. So if you have a calculator, hit second tangent, and then I'm going to put 3 over 4 in my calculator, and it gives me the decimal 36.9. 36.9. You should always round. I shouldn't have to tell you to round. So the measure of angle P is 36.9 degrees. Always round. Don't just like truncate. All right. This one's already set up for you, so I want you to do this one on your own. See if you can find the value of theta by yourself. Pause the video. So we're talking about theta in this one. So hypotenuse across from your right angle. Opposite across from your angle given. Adjacent. I'm going to write out so, ka, toa. So sine is O over H. Cosine is A over H. The first letter always comes first, or is always on top. So sine is 2 root 3 over 4. Cosine is 2 over 4, which is 1/2. Oh, and actually this one we can do root 3 over 2. And tangent is opposite over adjacent, 2 root 3 over 2. So because you can pick any one that you want, which one of these looks the easiest? So I think that this one's the easiest. So let's do cosine this time. And it just kind of worked out that that's the only one we haven't done yet. So, oh no. All right, so cosine of theta equals 1/2. Or if you want to put 0.5, you can put 0.5. We're going to do the inverse. The inverse of cosine is cosine minus 1. So we're going to do cosine minus 1. Just like we add something to both sides, we're going to do cosine minus 1 on both sides. The cosine and the inverse cosine cancel out. We're left with theta equals cosine minus 1 of 1/2. Put that in your calculator. Second, cosine 1 divided by 2. Oops, I hit a wrong button. And I get 60. So this one actually has a nice answer. It's 60 degrees exactly. That's a special triangle. We're going to talk about that in a week or two. All right. Pause the video. Try this on your own. So if I have a 4 there, a 5, I need to do Pythagorean theorem to find my missing side. So this is your h, remember that. So we need to do a squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. A squared plus 16 equals 25, minus 16 on both sides. A squared equals 9, so A is 3. Now this one is 2 problems, so let's start with this. I'm going to start with the theta problem. So I'm going to do that all in blue. So I'm going to start with blue. All right, so I have my hypotenuse, which I already wrote down. 3 is my opposite. 4 is my adjacent. So we have sine is O over H, 3 over 5. Cosine A over H, ca, 4 over 5. And tan opposite over adjacent, toa, 3 over 4. Then I'm going to do my alpha. So alpha I'm going to do in red. Here's my alpha. Now this one's a little different, right? What ends up switching? My hypotenuse is still in the same spot, right? Hypotenuse can't move. But my opposite and my adjacent switch. Opposite of alpha is 4. Adjacent is 3. So that's why I like to do them in colors. So sine is opposite in red, so 4 over 5. Cosine, 3 over 5. Tangent, 4 over 3. So notice what happens here. If you look, the sines and the cosines ends up switching, and tangent just flips, right? It went from 3 over 4 to 4 over 3. So now I'm going to pick one of them. Pick any one you want. I'm going to do sine. I'm going to do, so sine, let's do this in blue. So I'm going to solve for theta first. So I have sine of theta equals 3 over 5. So theta equals inverse sine of 3 over 5. And we're just going to put that in our calculator. Inverse sine 3 over 5. And we get 36.9 degrees. And then we're going to do the same thing. Again, you can pick sine, cosine, tangent. It doesn't matter. You will get the same answer. If I do tan of alpha, so alpha equals tan minus 1 of 4 over 3. Put that in the calculator. And we get 53.1. Now, humor me for a second. What do you get when you add those two numbers up? You get 90, right? Because think about it. If I knew the 36.9, I also could have just added 36.9 plus 90, subtract that from 180, and that would give me my other, because the angles in a triangle add up to 180. We are done. I know this might have been like, whoa, Miss Vazone, this is a lot, but that's why we're going to talk about it. Make sure you come to our online class so we can chat and go over some problems, and I can answer questions. Have a fabulous day. Do your homework. Email me if you have questions. Bye.